Hey YouTube, Bo Sonoris here, and in today's video we will be going over the 4 best exercises for the shoulder muscles. But before you guys do anything, can you hit that subscribe button down below? It helps out the channel a whole lot, that's for sure. Now that we got that out of the way, and before we talk about the 4 main exercises, I kind of want to talk about the anatomy a little bit. I feel like it's essential to know before you jump in and do these exercises. So basically, the main shoulder muscle that you have to worry about is the deltoid, and it sits right on the upper arm here. It gets its name from the Greek letter delta, just because it's triangular shape, hence deltoid. But anyway, it is composed of 3 major heads. You have the anterior head right here, you have the medial / lateral head, and you also have the posterior head. And these 3 heads, they each have a different action. So for the anterior head, its major action is flexion, so just going straight up here, and also internal rotation. Next, like I said, we have the medial lateral head. Its major action is abduction. And lastly, we have the posterior head. Its prime action is extension and external rotation, so basically away from the body. And you will see how these actions closely relate to the actual exercise itself, and it will make perfect sense after this video, I promise you guys. Now that we got the boring part out of the way, let's jump into the 4 top exercises for optimal shoulder development. Before I get into this part, sorry guys, I want to say all these exercises have different variations to them. I chose to use dumbbells because it is easiest. You can use cables, you can do seated or standing. So I just want to tell you guys before I get into these 4 exercises. So leading off, we have the seated dumbbell shoulder press, and this is a great exercise for overall shoulder development, although its primary focus is the anterior head. Just a couple things to keep in mind when performing this exercise. You want to go a fairly heavy weight. This exercise you can handle going a little bit heavier, I'd say in the hypertrophy range, so basically 6 to 8 reps. Another thing is when you perform this exercise, you don't want to go straight up and lock out because it puts way too much tension on the shoulder joint. You have to remember, bodybuilding, fitness, whatever you're doing this for, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Longevity is super important in the fitness world. Now onto the second exercise, we have the seated lateral dumbbell raise. This is honestly one of my favorite exercises, and it works the medial / lateral head. And if you remember or not, in the beginning of the video I talked about the medial and lateral head's main action is abduction. So in this exercise you're doing exactly that. You're just going straight up with the dumbbell. A couple things to keep in mind is you don't want to go too high because it doesn't put all the emphasis on that specific shoulder head. You want to go, I'd say, just less than 180. So if you cross your arms, 180s here, so a straight line. I'd say just a little bit less. Another thing that helps people is you want to go straight up and point those pinkies up, so like almost like you're pouring a glass of water just a little bit. It targets a little more emphasis on that medial head. So you do not want to go too heavy and weight. I see way too many people just using their whole body to lift the weight up. Go, I say, moderate to light weight. I usually go a little bit higher rep range, but I do switch it up as well. You want to make sure form is there. You don't want to be sloppy and do extremely heavy weight because it would be just a waste of time. The shoulder muscle is a smaller muscle, so it doesn't have to be overloaded with all this damn weight. Now on to the third exercise, the seated dumbbell rear delt fly. If you weren't paying attention in this video at all, I strongly advise you to pay attention now, because this is probably the most important exercise in this entire video. The reason behind that is because a lot of people have a well-developed anterior head just because doing bench press, incline, decline, etc. And what they neglect to train is that posterior head. So they have all their muscle build up on the anterior head, but they forget to train the posterior head. So this exercise targets exactly that posterior head, which many people lack. If you want to have nice boulder shoulders, this is the exercise you gotta be doing. You're able to create that cap if you target that posterior head. You want to go with extremely light weight. I'd say even lighter weight than the dumbbell lateral raise, just because it is a more difficult movement to get down, and the mind muscle muscle connection is very important in this exercise. So I'd probably range about 10 to 15 reps. And another thing is similar to the lateral raise, you also want to have your pinkies up. And a good tip that helped me is if you're struggling with this exercise, have a friend film you or even set up your phone in the gym just so you can see yourself performing this exercise, because a lot of times it feels like you're doing it right, but you really aren't. So film yourself, see how you're doing, and you yourself, you have to be your best critiquer. And the last thing I want to say about this exercise is throw this one in the beginning of your shoulder workouts, especially if you have a lagging posterior head. You want to train the body parts that are weakest in your physique. It's simple. You have the most energy. Why not hit it first and get the most bang for your buck? The fourth and final exercise is the dumbbell standing front raise. This exercise primarily focuses on the anterior head of the deltoid, and it isolates shoulder flexion. So just going straight up. Couple things in mind: you don't have to go heavy in this exercise. Like I said before, the shoulder muscle is not that big of a muscle. It doesn't have to be loaded with all this weight. 2 is when you go up, you don't want to go past your shoulder. I'd say just slightly below, just so you have a lot of tension on that anterior head. And when you're going down in this exercise, don't go all the way to your sides and rest it, because then you won't put any tension on the muscles. Stop a little bit earlier so there's complete tension the whole time on that anterior head. You have to remember, when you're building muscle, it's that stretch and the tension. That's what creates you to build nice thick muscle. So that concludes the 4 top exercises for the shoulder muscles. Now, a couple of things I want to get into about shoulder training that might help you a little bit is, usually with shoulders, I don't have a specific shoulder day just because it is a smaller muscle. I feel like I keep saying this video, but it's true. Shoulders, I usually tag along with my chest days or back days or even leg days. The only exception with that, if I'm limited on time, then I'll just hit shoulders. I feel like it's okay for that scenario. So if I only have like 20 to 45 minutes, I'll probably just hit shoulders and that'll give me enough time. Otherwise, no, I'm not just gonna train shoulders. Another thing is hit shoulders like 2 to 3 times a week. Most people have lagging shoulders, so you want to train that. If you have a lagging body part, hit it twice a week. You'll see the difference. Usually once a week is not enough frequency to see any significant growth in that muscle. And honestly, shoulders are a great muscle to train because they help you achieve that nice V taper that everyone strives to achieve. So if you're missing out shoulders, like, I don't know what to tell you. You're just not gonna have that Greek god physique. Like, come on, man, start training shoulders. If you train shoulders, your shoulders are getting stronger, and that results into a stronger bench. So if you want your bench to go up, start training shoulders. It's those smaller muscles that make the difference on the bench press. But yeah, my bench press literally increased 20 pounds just from increasing the frequency of my shoulder training. But anyway, I think I talked enough about shoulders. I'm kind of tired of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below if you have any more questions, or if you have any concerns, let me know. Also, before we leave, hit that like button, and if you didn't earlier, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much, YouTube. But I will see you in my next video.